Yes, Represent Radio, we are back here, and that song right there was one of my favourite songs by Tessellated, and I'm pleased to introduce the incredible music talent as a special guest today. But more than just a musical talent, maybe this is one of the best dressed artists I've ever met as well. Anytime this guy puts something up on Instagram, I start buying Clark's originals as soon as I've seen this post. Of course, we're talking about Tessellated. How are you doing, man?
Bless, bro. I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, man, real good. Enjoying the heat wave that we've had in the UK, and your music has definitely been one that we've been absolutely loving here on the show, and it's been like the soundtrack to the British summer for me anyway, man. So it's good to have you here on Zoom.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel it's always a heat wave in Jamaica, so same energy going on right now.
I think.
But yeah, how is the summer been?
Mate, the summer's been real, man. We've got the same temperatures as well as the vibe, man. It's hot over here. Like, we've been swimming out in the seasides and everything, man. It's like we can never do that in the years, but
no, definitely.
It's been good. How are things over there, man?
Pretty good, Jamaica's been an interesting place, just given everything going on. There's kind of been not too much travel in and out of the country for most people, and there hasn't been many events or anything going on. But the good thing is that the majority of people in the country are doing well. Everybody's pretty much safe, so I can't complain on that front. So just trying to keep it moving, keep things going, keep motivated. So have some of this music, like first single dropped. Looking forward to putting out the rest of the music really soon. So just keep it moving on that,
Definitely, man. It's something we're really looking forward to. But before we talk about the talents that you come from in a musical background, I was saying right there, one of the finest dresses in Jamaica. I'll tell you what, man, like your shirt collection is something we need to address here, because I've never seen. There's definitely a Jamaican fashion like that's different to anywhere else in the UK, and I feel as if you've got your own lane in that. Like, is that something that you've just always been like, just dressed well?
Not really. I mean, even right now, I'm just wearing a black shirt right now. Not very super well dressed. I was been studio working, but I think for me, it's just another way of expression as an artist. Just like through music, there's a certain way of expression, and through the things you wear, it just gives you a platform to kind of be creative. So I just like to have fun with it and just do a little bit of different things. Absolutely. And creative is something you definitely are, because I remember finding you back in 2016 on the Die High Records Season 1 compilation. I think you were just a producer. That was just a production, right? And was it Sophie Mears or Myers? Sophie Myers. Yeah,
Myers, right? Yeah.
Crazy. And that's like I think barely anybody even knows that. That's crazy that's like that from way back then. Yeah, that was a dope little compilation too. But yeah, because from before I even started singing, I was doing production. Like it was a little bit more electronic at the time. Yeah. And a lot of remixes and that type of energy. So yeah, like it's the same thing. It's just always been about really expressing and like creating something exciting for me.
Well, that's something I was really excited about, seeing that transition from that, because before I was really kind of channeling my own lane in like reggae, dancehall, soca music, I was into like scratching, like turntablism. So back then you had like beats from yourself. You had guys like Holly, Screwed, Lux Impala, and artists like that on the same company, and all that. Like I know you got DJs like DJ Craze, for example. That's like the kind of stuff he plays, and you were on that same compilation. So to see you take it from the electronic lane to go into kind of the I'm not going to pigeonhole you as reggae dancehall, because you take care of so many genres outside of that as well. But kind of taking it back to Caribbean music was really interesting to watch you make that. I say transition. You've kept some of the elements the same on some of your productions, and that's something we're going to get into in today's show.
For sure, I appreciate you recognizing that too, because it's a thing where I don't think it's a hard and fast transition. There's definitely a big step. But I think, it's really the same energy in the music. So same thing, like whereas in electronic music, I was trying to, fuse elements of reggae and dancehall and bring that into that style of music. I think even now that the thing is a bit more centered in Caribbean music, that it still is drawing elements from a lot of different places to kind of create something new with it at the same time.
Well, we definitely heard that on Streets. I remember like that tune as well. That's like a perfect example of what you just said there. And that track alone was like, again, it takes them Caribbean influences, but I don't want to use the word trap because it's not really trap. That was like the blanket term for a lot of bass heavy music around like 2015, 2016 and onwards. But it was kind of that electronic production really. And Streets was a really great way of seeing almost like your first step from that electronic word into I suppose back to what your origins were, because I know that music's been something that you've been into your entire life, right? Really, like actual instruments. Like you've been learning instruments as well as just being a singer, for example.
100%. So yeah, I've been involved with playing instruments and performing instrumentally from like 3-4 years old. So even though like later on I got into production, it was very electronic heavy. I think my whole musical experience was really rooted in like instruments. So that's kind of what it naturally moved towards over time as I was became more and more comfortable with myself musically. And I think even now, lots of my production is very like instrument based. Like there's a lot of like live instrumentation thing. I think that's just a feeling and a sound that you just cannot replicate without the real thing.
Definitely, man. So what was your musical upbringing like then? What was it like as a kid growing up? What was the music inputs for you? Like, what were you influenced by back then?
So back then it's very interesting because as a young kid, I wasn't really like a very active music listener. Like I did play some instruments, but I was exposed to a lot of music passively, right? So my father played a whole heap of old school reggae, right? And it's interesting because a lot of artists that like growing like at a younger age, if you had asked me, I'd be like, oh, I don't know who this is or that is, or I don't think I've really like listened to them. But then even later on, going back and listening, I'm like, oh, like I've been through like all these cats, like I've been through Peter Tosh catalog, right? Like without even realizing, you get me? And that I think kind of ingrained a lot of the music in me at an early age and had me like locked into a lot of these influences without even realizing. Same thing like my grandmother is from Trinidad, so she is into a whole heap of old school calypso and soca, and my mother was also very into soca and things, so there's like that like dance influence in there and like Motown, the old school R&B vibes. So there's a lot of different music from all over the place that was just kind of like in my subconscious before I even had a chance to realize it, which I'm super grateful for.
Well, it's something I can hear in your songs, especially when you say about like Motown. That's a genre most people wouldn't associate with the Caribbean's kind of side of music, but you can tell that you still got that songwriter kind of catchy chorus, but it's uplifting kind of melodies that you used to have in classic Motown records. And I can hear that in not even just the songs that you sing on, but the productions as well. You take, as I said, the live elements like guitars and stuff like that on electronic beats, and that's something that's kind of definitely, I'm seeing you're quite a champion of that sound, but we're seeing a lot of new artists, especially coming out of Jamaica at the moment. I remember Naomi Cohen telling me about you about a year ago. We interviewed her about this time last year, and we're saying like, yo, who else do we need to be watching? Because we love what she was doing. And she's amazing. I remember she was saying you and Savannah. That was the other one, the artist that she was saying like, you need to be watching these artists too. And we've seen her EP as well. And it's good to know that you've got an EP on the way as well. So with this new wave of like, I'd say Jamaican fusion artists like yourself, Coffee, Savannah, Leela IK, Vision Alexander, what's kind of what's creating the fusion at the moment? Because that's kind of a very new breed of music. I wouldn't say it's the standard sort of styles of music people associate with Jamaica, but there's definitely something bubbling right now, and you're one of the leaders in that. Like, what's going on?
I think the thing is that nowadays, the boundaries that people tend to place on sounds and influences, because of the internet, they really no longer exist. So even though as a Jamaican, I'm definitely going to be naturally influenced by more Jamaican music, it's like I still grew up listening to a lot of the same music that American kids would grow up to, or UK kids would grow up listening to. So it's like, although there's a roots there, which is what you find with all these people, it's like they all have a similar sound. They're influenced by so much more than just Jamaica. So naturally, the things that they're going to be creating are going to be a combination of all those influences rather than strictly, a specific genre or style. Yeah,
definitely. And I can hear even like the Afrobeats influences on some of like your recent songs. Obviously, No Ansa is the one we're going to be talking about in a moment, but you can tell that kind of fusion of different genres from around the world is influencing that kind of style. So for you, like, I'd say you are definitely a champion in a songwriting style. Like a lot of the lyrics you write are very conscious, a lot of the beats are incredibly made. What's the thing that kind of, what's your guaranteed way of getting inspired? Like, how do you approach writing new music?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I feel like I feel there's never a guarantee, you know, because when it comes to like inspiration and art, it's something that you really have to let flow. And if you take it for granted or feel like, okay, this is definitely like the one way it's gonna work, it's gonna turn on you, right? Because you kind of have to listen to it. You can't tell it what to do per se. But generally, I just try to more take inspiration as it comes. So it's more a matter of, instead of sitting down when I want to and saying, okay, I'm going to be inspired now by doing X, Y, Z, I can keep the door open, and when the inspiration hits, I say, okay, you know, this is when it's coming. Now I need to use it while it's here.
Yeah, and it's funny you just said, just then you were talking about how if you think it's going to be like a guaranteed thing, it can flip on you. That's definitely I think a prime example. I've heard the story of I learned some jazz today. Now you wrote that. Were you at college? I think when you wrote that. Yeah. So that was like something. That was your first proper vocalist song, wasn't it? That you stepped into as a vocalist, and
definitely.
It is now been nominated for an Emmy. Today, which is
You never know. And even the thing with that song was like a very, very actually perfect example of the situation. I was actually I'd been working on some vocal stuff. You know, like I'd made the decision I wanted to try to step into vocals. I'd been recording some things for a couple of months, but I hadn't had anything that I thought, you know, okay, this is really worthy of releasing. And a lot of the things were more practice. I was like, okay, I'm gonna record a cover of this song just to see how I can do it. But I started this beat, right? And I actually went to do some exercise, right? At the gym down the road. And I was there and I was like doing my little thing, treadmill or whatever, lifting 1, 2 weights, and then I had this idea for this verse starting in my head. So I'm like, yo, this is sick. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna finish this and go home. And I was like, nah, I'm just gonna dip right now. Like, I don't care. Like, I can exercise tomorrow. Yeah. And I just went home same time and just shot it up and just like dropped it on SoundCloud like an hour or so later, right? Like, and it was just a thing. And I mean, at the time, it was dope just because, you know, people were vibing with it, and it kind of freed me up in terms of I wasn't afraid to put my vocals out there anymore because I'd done it one time and I was getting positive reception. But then also same thing, like down the line, like it's done so much for me that I could have never ever predicted.
Definitely.
Years later.
Well, when I was seeing it, because obviously it then became the soundtrack to the Apple AirPods Bounce advert, which is now up for an Emmy, an Emmy nomination, and so that's crazy how you literally done something that you were in the gym, you just had an idea, and now it's literally like, you, I think you could be walking away with the award in this one, man. And I love the way that it's an incredible tune, but the way that Oscar Hudson had even directed the music to go along with the video, like. I think the way like how obviously you got the trampoline kind of world, but also there's a little part in it where you hear your piano play and how he runs up the stairs in the advert, things like that. Just little things like that I thought were so ingenious in the way that your music works so well with that video. So how did that kind of come back? Like when Apple approached you for that one, like I'm assuming something that you wrote in your bedroom in college, and then you've got Apple like messaging you asking to use it in an advert. Like how did that come about?
So, you know, I wrote to the version that's actually in the ad is a updated version, right? To the original one that I had done. So, you know, I had the original one, and the original one is also very short. It was only like about a minute and a few seconds long. And, you know, they need a little bit more content, but, you know, the people reached out to me. Well, first they didn't really reach out as Apple, because they don't do that for reasons, you know. So a lot of the time I was working on a project, I didn't know what it was actually for, right? So it wasn't quite until like a time into it that I actually discovered that, you know, this is what it's for and that this is going to be happening. But because they move very quickly, like while I was working on finishing the audio aspect of it, they were already starting like filming the visual aspect of it. But the thing is that I really appreciate is that, you know, it was really, they really made it like an audio visual experience. It wasn't just like a video with a song going to it, right? it was really like same thing. The song and the video were very in sync, and like one couldn't really fully stand without the other. So yeah, it was a really dope experience, just being a part of something that big. But it's interesting as well because it's such a big company and they have to, you know, maintain certain levels of privacy when doing things. It's like I kind of in my area and I'm getting pieces of information doing my thing, and then other people are likewise in other areas doing their little pieces of things, and everybody is coming together without necessarily being in direct contact, right?
Wow.
But one thing I do have to say that was very interesting, I didn't really expect, is that working with them in terms of companies was probably like the most free I've been, like working with doing anything for like sync or working with a company or even just like any paid work like that. Because, you know, a lot of times you'd expect that if you're working with a company, they're going to be super hard and fast. So when you this, it needs to be this, it needs to sound like that. But they were really like, hey, we love your ideas, we love, you know, your creativity. We want you to just take your vision and expand it, and we're going to do what we can with it. So it was a really like positive experience just creatively, where I felt like I was really able to express myself. Which I think is the opposite of what most people might expect, you know, in that type of situation.
There's definitely a reputation for a lot of sync things that you know, as an artist, you're more kind of employed to do what the brief is, whereas they kind of took your idea. Mm-hmm.
But, you know, because then the people paying you money to do something, you just have to do it. But it's nice to get both in one. Yeah.
Definitely way. And since then we've seen your career kind of skyrocket already very quickly. Like I'm seeing some of the tracks that you've had out as an independent artist, and then also the collaboration you've had. You've had for example, Pine and Ginger, you had Popcorn and Cranium jump on the remix of stuff like that. So it's kind of definitely like just like have you always had a connection with the artists like Popcorn and Cranium in Jamaica, or did that kind of come off the back of how quickly your career sort of exploded from the scene from that?
So that remix was actually out from before that came out. So that one, the same thing, like Pine and Ginger definitely was the first song that opened up a lot of doors for me in Jamaica and abroad. So yeah, like those connections, like Popcorn and Cranium, really came off of Pine and Ginger being like kind of like a viral thing in the Caribbean scene, in the UK a little bit too. But then obviously like the Apple thing kind of just helped to solidify that on top and, you know, further expand. And the goal is for even these tunes coming right now to build on top of those too.
Definitely. So from there, we've now seen how you're transcending into the new EP that's coming first, but we've got the new single, No Ansa. We need to talk about that one, because we spoke earlier on about how you had that Afrobeat influence, because that track, you know, we've been playing it here on the Represent show. It's something I'm absolutely loving. I've been using it in my new music playlist every Friday too. So Crayon's originally from Nigeria, am I right in saying that? And so you've got that Afrobeat influence. How did that whole track come together? Did you already have that written, or is that something you linked up and done together? Like, that's a banger and a half, and I want to know how it started.
Blessed. So I actually started it when I was in the UK last year for Notting Hill, right? Yeah. And I linked up with these two producers, Footsteps and Bale. And I linked to them. I can't remember where exactly where the studio, but I linked with them one night. You know, we knocked out a few demos. That was one of the demos. Then, you know, I went back to Los Angeles. I really felt strongly about this one, so I, you know, went in and did some more production. I added my own little vibe to it, some instrumentation stuff. But the whole time, you know, I was feeling that I needed like somebody from that side of the world on the track, you know? Yeah. Because even with the production style and the vibe of it was like very heavily like Afrobeat influenced. So the whole time I was like, all right, you know, I had it in my mind that I need an African artist, right? Like even like Nigerian artists even better on the track, but I don't know who yet. Yeah. So I kind of had the track sitting down for a minute, and, you know, even when I originally conceptualized this EP, I had the track there with just a blank space, just because I was like, okay, like I know the right person is gonna come along, but I'm not sure who it is yet. Yeah. And then, you know, one day, you know, I'd been in contact with you know, Crayon's label, And I said, let me reach out to them and see what they think, if they like the song, or if they have somebody that would be interested. I met them from Los Angeles, and I reached out and they're like, yo, we have the perfect person, this guy Crayon. He's super dope. He's also like super dope to work with. I think you rate him. So they sent me his music, which I've actually never heard before. And I was like, yo, this guy is it. This guy is the one, right? And he heard the track and he was like, yo, vibes. And he just super quick recorded something. I'm like, yo, this is it. Like, it was one of those things where it was like, I was waiting for the right person, and it just kind of fell into my lap. So he shot it up, super dope. And then it just felt right, and then we just got moving with the track. So it wasn't a thing where we linked up in person. As of now, I still have yet to link up with him, just because the whole traveling situation. Yeah. Even though I definitely feel like we're gonna link up and even make some more stuff. But he right now, has a couple of new tracks out. This one called "Sometime" that just dropped. It's also super dope. If you guys want to check that out. But he's just an amazing artist, super fire person to work with, great songwriter. It's positive energies.
Well, it's definitely the kind of the introduction we need to come up to the new EP that's dropping very soon, the Tropics Volume 1. Do you have a release date for that one yet? Are we allowed to say when that one's coming out yet?
I don't have a specific day, but I can tell you it's going to be in about 2 months.
2 months. Okay, so still kind of hot temperature weather. It's going to be perfect here for the UK summertime still. So that's just the perfect time to be dropping music. And I feel like this is a great time for dropping music anyway, because even though we've still got kind of like the lockdown kind of, travel restrictions around the world, I feel as if the world is starting to adapt better and people are starting to feel happier again. And there's been so much great music this year. I think people forget, because we haven't had festival season, carnival or anything like that, people forget how much great music's come out, and that's another one that's still yet to come. So No Ansa is going to be off for that EP as well, right? Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
So that's like the first introduction to the EP. So if it follows from that, I know we're all going to love it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it. It's a few different vibes. A pretty short EP. There's 7 tracks in total, but I think each of the tracks, as we were talking about before, different influences. Each of the track kind of touches on one different influences in a way. So this track No Ansa leans more into the Afrobeat side. My next track is gonna lean a little bit more towards reggaeton. I have another track that's almost like a Afro-Caribbean, like Cuban vibe.
Wow.
Another track that's almost like strictly hip hop. So it's like the same energy, but it kind of, as a whole, would be like, okay, like this is who Tessellated is. We can hear like all the different influences, and we'll understand how all these different songs piece together now. Just because, if someone, for example, might have heard Pine and Ginger and then just heard I Learned Some Jazz Today, there's a bit of a space, in between there. So I think this, for like people who might have heard of 1 and 2 songs, it kind of bridge the gap. So like, okay, it's not just this or this, it's all these possibilities in between. And just like okay, understand the landscape of me and like my creative process.
I think that's something that we're definitely looking forward to, because for you as well, obviously we play a lot of dancehall, Afrobeats, reggae, soca on this show. I don't think you fit into one category specifically. When I hear your music, I see you almost like the way I see soul artists or something like that, or hip hop. Yeah. You take what you love and you put it into what you just think is great music, and it's something that's timeless. And if this is just the EP, I can't wait to see when we have a debut Tessellated album, and then we can see the body of work, and I see that it will go down is a great album in history. Like when you look at things like the Buju Bantams, the Bob Marleys, the Wu-Tang Clans, all these classic albums, Jimi Hendrix. When I think I would see your album would sit in amongst that, because you've taken so many genres and you make just what you think is great music, regardless of what people perceive your genre to be as. And that's something we're definitely excited about the future.
That's a huge compliment. I try to live up to it when I actually do finish creating that.
No, it's exciting, man. And anytime we get any of your music in the inbox, it's an exciting time, because I'm like, I just know we're gonna love this. Straight away, you're an artist that we just see your name. I'm like, I don't need to have a proper listen to judge it or anything. I'm like, that's gonna be great. And I've listened to it. I'm like, I was right. It was great. That's how it is. There we go.
No, I think you're definitely gonna be excited to it. I'm gonna have this new single over to you probably the next couple of weeks, and this one is even more. So I feel like No Ansa is kind of like, it's a nice like fusion vibe, but it's not really too, you know, left of center. This next one is kind of going to be a little bit more like pushing the boundary, but still definitely like a very heavy like dance vibe.
That's what we love.
Like the party energy. So yeah.
So yeah, man, thank you so much. So for the meantime, what I always ask people, like, one last bit of information. You've come from a big background of being a musician, an instrumentalist, producer, and then becoming an artist, like as a singer. So with a lot of that experience, what would you say your advice is for any new artists who want to try and do something different, who want to step out from the crowd? What's your advice to them?
There's so many different pieces of advice I could offer, but I think the number one thing for me is that, you know, you have to really stick true to your vision, right? There's so many ups and downs that comes in the music industry, like at all times. There's so much stress, and there's so many different people saying different things, and there's people who may be in opposition to you, or in competition, or there's so many different things. I feel like if you're not like firmly rooted in your vision and belief in yourself, it's easy to get discouraged, or easy to like lose your way and end up being somewhere that you really don't want to be. So I think number one, like before anything, is to kind of find balance within yourself and understand what you want to do and why you want to do it. And if you really know that and are firm with it, then like you can overcome anything else.
Absolutely, that's a wicked advice, man. And guys, if you're listening to that, I hope that's inspired at least one person right there, right now, to make some amazing music. Or not even music, it's just whatever it is in your life that you're passionate about. Go and do it today. Tessellated has been bringing the vibes, and that's the kind of vibes we need right now. Tessellated, for now until whenever, what's the homework for everyone? Where do they find you on social media to follow you?
So you don't know, the number one place, IG, all updates are there, and that's at TessVibe, TessVibe. And everywhere else, you can find me at Tessellated, TessEllatedD. Little bit hard to spell, but you'll figure it out. And you know, new single, No Ansa, featuring Kieran, is out right now. A visual for that is going to be dropping real soon. I have a new single coming in a couple of weeks, a new EP coming like about a month after that. So stay tuned in. There's going to be so much going on. I'm really excited to share with you guys. So make sure to just lock in and follow the updates.
We cannot wait. Tessellated, thank you so much for joining us here on the Gully B Show and Represent Radio. It's been an absolute honour to have you here today. And we can't wait to see what happens with the new EP, man.
Yeah, man, like it's been dope. It's been dope. I really love to have conversations, and especially with people who really, you know, have that love for music and understand what's going on. And even, for example, for you to tell me that, like, if you've been listening from way back in the Die Hard days, it's like, yeah, man. I really thank you for like even supporting, because, you know, like even that those little supports from back then is what kept me going to, you know, keep going through the years and keep pushing through. So enough love, man. Definitely, I hope to be back on tour, maybe going some new music. So love, man. We cannot wait to hear what happens next with the EP, man.